Professor Golzio, the floor is yours for the first today's sessions.
Thanks, Tommaso. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the conference and to the workshop number 1, Automation and of Work Patterns of Employment and Self-Employment. I just remember you what just already Tommaso said. There is the Young Scholar session that you can see through 15 video pills on the YouTube on the Foundation channel. So in this first workshop, there will be 4 papers to be introduced and discussed in alphabetic order. For each paper, it will be 10 minutes of introduction by the author, 2 questions booked in the chat but made by voice on the microphone to go faster. And please remember, for each question answer couple, no more than 5 minutes, just to respect the timetable. If at the end time remains, there will be room for another lap. So after these rules of the game, I just introduce the first paper, that is Regulation and the Future of Work, the Employment Relationship as an Innovation Facilitator by Antonio Aloisi and Valerio De Stefano. I don't know who will be the speaker, but the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear my voice and see the presentation. Please let me know if something is going wrong. Thank you very much.
Stay closer to the microphone.
Yes, so thank you very much for having me today. It's a great opportunity to be again virtually in Modena. Of course, we are all missing the wonderful opportunity to be there in person. I want to present this article that I co-authored with Professor Valerio De Stefano, and the title is Regulation and the Future of Work, the Employment Relationship as Innovation Facilitator. Now, in the article that has been already uploaded in the folder of the conference, you can see that we try to address 2 research questions. The first one is whether current labor regulation and institutions are still appropriate to cope with the ongoing digital transformation and the many phenomena related to the future of work. The second one is whether the employment relationship is still capable of accommodating new realities and modern business models. We start with a very short anecdote, which is told by Angelo Gaia, one of the most successful Italian winemaker. And this is the story of Giovanni, who was the landlord, the owner, and the founder of the family business. Now, Giovanni Gaia, almost 100 years ago, decided to hire all his sharecroppers, the Italian mezzadri. This is not an act of generosity, but Giovanni wanted to force them to follow instructions because his idea was to develop a very high quality final product. And thanks to this anecdote, we try to illustrate the authentic spirit of innovation. Now, very often there is a current problem, which is about the conventional wisdom on the role of social institutions. And many advocates of digital disruption are trying to postulate the obsolescence and incompatibility of existing legal categories. In many cases, the standard employment relationship is presented as a tool that is not more viable than non-standard formats. And this is a very narrow understanding of the employment relationship, which is mainly focused on the notion of external flexibility, which is, of course, the possibility of hiring and firing workers as smoothly as possible. Basically, we contend that this understanding fails to understand the role of functional flexibility, of internal flexibility, which is the opportunity of redeploying workers from a task to another one. And this should be very beneficial for those managers and employers that are trying to develop an inventive business model. And of course, they need to face the changes in preferences and in trends in the markets in order to basically accommodate the needs of the customers. This is the structure of the paper, of course, that I'm going to summarize. We focus in the first section on the role of the basically digital transformation of the labor market. We focus on the visualization of we discuss the role of platform work, and then, and in particular, the second section, in my opinion, is the most interesting side of our argument. We try to basically understand and basically unpack the role of socioeconomic institution by using the so-called transaction cost economics. This is very important for labor lawyers, but can also offer many important insights for those entrepreneurs who are trying to basically restructure business in the face of this ongoing profound transformation. And then we conclude with a set of lessons that we have learned when writing and studying for this article. The first important issue is that very often flexibility or even autonomy, as discussed here in the introduction of the conference, is presented in a sort of monodimensional way. And what we are witnessing in so many different jurisdictions all over Europe is that there are many so-called disruptive companies that are exercising strong managerial prerogatives, which are not matched by the activation of the counterweights that have been designed to basically humanize and constitutionalize this position of power. This situation may result in a win-win opportunity, even if this is very vulnerable from a legal standpoint, and many courts, including the Court of Justice of the European Union, are demystifying this notion of bogus autonomy. There is another important problem, which is about the difficulty or even the impossibility in dealing with a very scattered, fragmented, and demotivated workforce. So, in our opinion, it could be important to basically go back and learn something more about the purpose of the employment relationship. I'm perfectly aware that we tend to present the employment relationship as a protective tool. What is often neglected is that the employment relationship is a powerful vehicle for integration. And this is why Ronald Coase and other authors such as Williamson, Powers, try to basically conflate the notion of the employment relationship with the notion of the vertical firm, while on the other side, non-standard forms of employment, including self-employment contracts, are associated with commercial contracts and in particular with the market situation. This so-called command hierarchy is highly instrumental for a wide variety of reasons. And in particular, there are many economists that have managed to identify a positive relationship between strategic flexibility, innovation, and environmental dynamism. Of course, we tend to discuss the role of the employment relationship by only focusing on the protective goals. Here we maintain that labor regulation is much more than workers' protection. And this is a powerful socioeconomic platform where multiple forces are in equilibrium. They strike a balance between flexibility and security, between freedom and compliance. And this is why the employer is authorized by the legal environment, by the legal framework in several jurisdictions, both civil law and common law countries, to exercise managerial prerogatives that are traditionally unpacked in three different powers: the power to organize the business in a very efficient way, the power to issue unilateral instructions, and to assess the compliance with these guidelines, and even the possibility, the extreme possibility to sanction, to discipline the non-compliant or even recalcitrant worker. These should be a fundamental information for those craving flexibility and autonomy. The legitimate exercise of power is enshrined in the employment relationship. And I guess that for the future of work, we should try to understand how an adaptation of this legal template could be a very crucial and promising vehicle for economic success. To conclude, to remark, and this is the yes, I conclude here, and of course, I argue in the paper that labor market institutions, including the contract of employment and collective bargaining agreements, can affect propensity to innovation. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to discussing the article with you.
Thank you, Aloisi, for managing your time. Let's see if there is some that has booked for a question. Okay, Shaheen Manafi, please remember short question and Aloisi short answers. Question by voice.
I can hear.
Okay. Any question? There is still room for one booking. It seems that there is no question. So I have to, well, I have to skip to the second paper. I thank again Bini. Maybe that we will have another lap at the end if there is time.
Yes, of course, I will be also available at the end of the presentation.
Now the second paper, block change between autonomization and automation, new challenges for labor law by Stefano Bini. Stefano Bini, the floor is yours. Where are you? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Stefano Bini.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, I shortly introduce myself. I'm Stefano Bini. I'm an assistant professor of labor law and social security law at the University of Còrdoba in Spain, from which I speak to you. And I'm sincerely very excited and really emotional to participate to the Marco Biagi International Conference. It's a great honor. So I firstly would like to express my personal gratitude towards the organizers. A special thanks goes to Professor Eduardo Ales and Professor Jacopo Senatore. Well, I would like just to offer some reflection and to introduce a sort of path of reasoning on the topic on which I focused my paper, just introducing some aspects. Blockchain between autonomization and automation in decisions. Labor law is called to rethink some of its landmarks, and probably some same perimeter of its borders, more and more porous. In front of a subordination increasingly autonomous and non-autonomy, further and further dependent, the diffusion of blockchain, innovative technology, well known for its use in the Bitcoin field, poses some relevant issues, giving rise to critical questions also for labor law. And considering its nature of a trustless technology whose functioning is possible thanks to the combination of machine learning and deep learning algorithms, the ratio of this disruptive technology could be identified in the celebration of autonomy in the decision-making process, as well as in the carrying out of a complex processes. In other words, this technology, substantially based on artificial intelligence, just to make it simple, could be considered as a sort of epiphenomenon of the multifaceted contemporary challenges for labor law, not just because it determines a crucial change in the organizational process, and so in the employment relationship, but also for the regulatory insensitivity blockchain expresses. As known, and I would like to stress this aspect, blockchain is operationally insensitive to the need for a regulatory framework and for a public authority supervising its proper functioning. This peculiar aspect questions labor lawyers and calls for thought, especially around the legal value to be attributed to this technology and to the possible areas of impact on the legislation currently in force. The spread of this phenomenon also, especially in the organization of the productive scenario, leads indeed to wonder about the need to rethink the regulatory system governing the employment relationship, focusing on the possibility to recognize a legal status and therefore a legal recognition to this new disruptive technology. And in this respect, in the paper, I propose a critical reflection, taking the cue from the analysis of the regulatory sources that can be found on the point, both on the national Italian side and the European side. On the national Italian side, the reference is represented by Article 8 ter, paragraph 1, Law 12, 2019, and in the European framework, the General Data Protection Regulation 2016 679 of the European Parliament and of the Council on the protection of natural persons with regard to the processing of personal data and on the free movement of such data, Directive 95/46, well known as the GDPR. Well, the latter office in particular, interesting insights, having introduced for the first time a form of regulation of the so-called automated individual decision-making process, with reference to the labor sphere, a potential revolution in the traditional standardized work organizational model. If on the one hand, digital revolution is determining a sort of possible reconfiguration of the very foundation of the employment relationship with the expansion of the autonomous decision-making power given to employees whose discretionary zone is often becoming larger and larger, especially with reference to the when and where dimensions. On the other hand, this autonomization process is accompanied by the automatization trend, in which an increasing number of choices in the same labor productive scenario is automatically taken by machines, algorithms, and self-executing processes. A disruptive phenomenon previously unimaginable, in which a new interpenetration between human and machine can be observed. And in the paper, I stress the attention in particular on the relationship between the trustless technology, blockchain, and the labor markets, the trustless technology for the labor markets, and the blockchain, considering blockchain, especially with reference to smart contracts and DAOs. In conclusion, I propose a sort of final reflection on the relationship between humanism and technology. The paper strives to offer, also through a sort of contamination with other spheres of knowledge, a theoretical analysis and a critical reflection on the impact blockchain produces on employment relations and labor regulation, exploring this new disruptive technology as a sort of fertile ground for experimentation of a new relationship between humanism and technique. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Many thanks to Stefano Bini for managing very efficiently the time he was allowed, and I just ask if there is some question to be put on the chat and after to be made by voice on the microphone. Is there any question for the introduction of Stefano Bini? It's maybe because we are at the beginning of the afternoon, the time reaction of the audience, it seems to be very slow.
But as Antonio said, I'm at disposal for questions at the end of the workshop, and without problems, we are disposal.
Okay. Anyway, if there is some question, we are just waiting one minute more. At the end of the session, if there will time, we will try again. If there is a possibility to make another lap. Okay, if there is nobody else, I just said in the earlier that I will follow the alphabetic order, so it will be a change, respect the timetable that the speaker had before, and now it's time to Paolo Gubitta, as I saw him in the video, just to introduce Shaping the Future of Work. It is made by not only by Paolo Gubitta, but also Martina, Gianecchini, and Sara Dotto. If who is the speaker? I don't see Paolo Gubitta.
The speaker is Martina. Yeah.
Pardon? Okay.
I am going to be the speaker, Martina Gianecchini.
Okay, welcome, Martina. The floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. Go.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that you can see my screen. So in our 10 minutes, I'm going to present this paper that is co-authored by me, Sara Dotto, and Paolo Gubitta. Our paper actually started from a question emerging a few years ago about the impact of technology on jobs and on workplaces. Probably everybody remember the paper by Frey and Osborne 2013 that was an alarm about the number of jobs that we are going to lose because of technology changes. They were talking about 47% of US jobs at risk. After that, other analysis suggested instead that we are seeing a birth of new jobs because of technology. So it was not a matter of losing jobs, but of new jobs that were going to be created. Finally, other analyses that are now the majority are suggesting that instead of these two opposite phenomena, we are instead seeing a situation where technology is merging together with jobs, creating new jobs where individuals are required to merge together and mix together skills that are both technological with a different level of technology level, meaning that partially they are classical computer IT related skills together with more modern, I would say, digital skills. Together with the soft skills and the traditional professional skills that were originally required by their jobs. And here we just reported the last World Economic Forum report talking about the future of jobs. So basically our paper is trying to explore a little bit this phenomenon of changing of the composition of the skills in the labor market through an empirical analysis, and trying to understand if these new jobs where these kind of different skills are merged together are affected by the fact that a person is of a certain age, certain gender, or belonging to a certain kind of organizations. In order to answer these two research questions, we moved two pieces basically of literature. The first one is related with the...
Martina, please, you have to move also the slides because there is always the first page on the screen.
Okay, so I don't know why.
Okay.
Now you see, but I'm doing the... I'm okay. Apparently, okay. Okay, let's do like this. So the first piece of literature is the one related with the so-called T-shaped professionals. So T-shaped professionals are people in IT in particular, developing a vertical knowledge in a specific area of their professionality, but together with that, in order to remain employable and being able to collaborate with other people, they develop also the horizontal part of the T. So the horizontal stroke is related with some skills that support them in collaborating with other people. So problem solving, for instance, or working in groups, designing projects together. This kind of literature developed the different shapes, we call them, meaning that it is possible to have a vertical stroke that is a very specific area of knowledge, but together with that also other areas, vertical areas. The more you have, the more you're employable, basically. This idea of different shapes of jobs actually recalls something that we already know from work design literature about the knowledge characteristics of a job, in particular resembling these the two dimensions of skill specialization and skill variety. Where skill specialization is about the fact that a job is requires to have a specific and specialized area of expertise. And instead, the skill variety is the amount of different areas of expertise that is required to a job in order to be performed, where the first skill specialization is usually associated with the repetition and learning a very specific area, as I was mentioning. Instead, the skill variety is related with learning, because you learn different areas, you are more motivated, and you increase your employability. So remembering our research question, first of all, we were curious to explore which are the possible shapes of jobs in the labor market nowadays, that different changes are happening, and if there is a relationship between individual and organizational characteristics and the different shapes of jobs. We ran an explorative analysis on a sample of workers working in the Veneto region, who were employed for at least 1 year, so they know a little bit their job, because basically our questions were about the knowledge that they use while they are doing their job. In particular, we asked them 4 areas of knowledge, divided by soft skills, functional skills, computer-related skills, and digital skills. These 4 areas are the horizontal part of our of the job, and for each of the area, we asked a group of specific skills. In particular, asking 2 people to tell us the level of knowledge that they are required to have for that specific skill, and the frequency of utilization of this skill. Because we thought that the more you use it, the more you become an expert, and so the vertical stroke is becoming more depth. We perform a cluster analysis on these answers in order to try to identify different shapes, as I was mentioning, of jobs. So in order to understand if on the market different jobs, they have different composition of skills. And we discover the existence, quite balanced, of different shapes. The most frequent one is what we call the low specialized, P-shaped, where all the 4 families of skills, so the computer-related, the digital and soft skills, and the functional related are quite low, with the soft skills that are more prevalent. Similar to this one is the 4th cluster, that is high specialized, P-shaped, where instead average level is a little bit higher. And then we have 2 different shapes that are dash shaped, where everybody basically, all the knowledge are at the highest level, and H-shaped, that is characterized by computer-related and soft as the highest skills required. The final analysis tried to connect these shapes with the likelihood that different individuals perform the different jobs. And we discovered that basically the dash-shaped jobs, so the ones where all the skills are required at the highest level, are covered by individuals who are mostly male. They are the highest educated, and we are talking about jobs in the marketing or sales function in service businesses. Instead, the low specialized P-shaped, the majority are instead that are quite weak in terms of skills that are required. They are covered by individuals who work in smaller companies, in manufacturing industries with a low level of education. I connect this particular shape, because I'm close to 10 minutes, with our implication and discussion, because probably this kind of shape is the one that is more exposed to the automatization, because we are talking about people with a manufacturing activity in smaller firms. However, because of probably economic conveniences, or because of the part that is related with the relational skills, still they have a place, an area that is prevalent in the labor market. However, if probably they are not able to change a little bit the shape of their job, and then moving, enlarging a little bit the skills that are required, they are the ones who are going to suffer more from the technology, the advancement of technology. A final note is that we don't find any connection with the age and the kind of contractual agreement and the different shape of the job. So it's not a matter of the age of people or the kind of contract that is stipulated by companies, but is a matter of the skills, with the implications for the training and development that are going to be probably really different if we are training an activity that is done frequently, or instead is done once a while by different people. And then I think I'm finished. Thank you very much for your attention.
Professor Golzio, the microphone is not working.
Great. Many thanks, Martina, for your presentation and the management of your time. And now I still repeat the invitation of making some question. So
I have
yes, Tommaso.
Yes, thank you, Martina. Thank you, Paolo, for this, for your contribution. I found it very interesting. I have one curiosity. You're into this competence issue. You've been into this competence issue for some time now, and I wondered if, by the simple reading of the title, you could ever, of your respondents, which I suppose that you knew, you could ever be able to tell something about what you found next at the end of the cluster analysis. So is there something in the need of competence, in number and scope, that you could actually tell now that you've done your study from the job titles, or not?
I don't know if I don't see Paolo anymore. I don't know if you want to answer, or
I can see him, yes.
do you see him? No, I don't. Okay. Okay, so I go. I would say no, meaning that to a certain extent the cluster are quite how to say, transversal, meaning that for instance the two P-shaped are both in manufacturing companies, but one are people working in logistics, where you know a little bit more of technology, ability with to interact with internal and external clients is there, and the other group is again supply chain, but more of a productive part. So maybe the job title are not so different, but in reality the content can be. And it's more a matter of the size of your company, or what is required by your job within the company, I would say.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other question before skipping to the last paper? It seems there is nobody. So
The
let's
presentation
go.
of Martina has been very clear.
Oh, that's for sure. Now let's go to the last paper, titled Behind Employment Protecting Autonomous Work by Daria Sarti and Teresina Torre. I presume that Torre will introduce the paper, because I saw the name on the video. please.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Henry? Okay.
Can you see me?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now we saw.
Okay. And now I'm trying to open our presentation.
Okay.
I'm not able to open it. Daria, will you try? I don't know why, but I'm not able to open. No, okay. So, okay. It has a strange, but it is. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and a special greeting to all the members of the Biagi Foundation. Of course, this is not the best situation we hope to live, and this is what we have at our disposal. Okay, thanks for the opportunity to present the research that Daria and me, we are developing for some years, which try to focus on deepening what is changing in work condition, and in work attitude. And this year, this specific paper, as you see, explore what we think that can be a very interesting issue in present time. Employee and self-employed in working life is the real difference. How can I? Here? Okay. Okay. Something about the background we are focused on. First of all, we can start remembering what is happening. The presentation is closed. Sorry, I had all these problems.
And we don't see you.
Good, okay. So, we can see it now.
Okay, sorry, I don't know, perhaps I... so, according to the classic literature, with these two typologies, what is happening? Sorry?
We've lost it again.
Yeah,
are you sharing the screen or the file?
I'm sharing the screen and I try to open the file. So I did both, but...
because if you share the file, we will keep seeing you and also the slides that you want to comment. So can you try sharing the file, which is a command on the bottom right of the screen that you've used for sharing your screen. But you have 4 options. The last one is share file.
Yeah.
You have it, the option, share file.
Oh, yeah, share file. I don't know why.
Let me see, I can help you.
I don't know what is happening. It seems that everything is...
Do you see?
We see the slide.
It's me.
We can see the slides now.
It's you working.
Okay. So, thank you very much. I don't know what is happening, but in this moment, it seems to me that my PC has some problems because so it is doing strange things. Okay, sorry. So I was trying to say that according to the classic literature, these two typologies represent two completely separated situations, having a strong and relevant reference in the legal dimension, of course, and also putting in evidence some differences with relation to specific concepts, as Tommaso has underlined in his presentation, just with regard to autonomy and discretion and so on. So these these two different groups have been studied from an occupational psychology and positive psychology perspective, focusing specific attention with regard to individual outcome, also with regard to the personality traits, underline, for example, that differences are present with regard to the risk-taking perspective and so on. And then these two groups present qualitative different subcultures of belonging. Also from the entrepreneurship field and on the field of business economics, many differences have been put in evidence. But it seems to us that these two groups and the reshaping of the difference existing between these are still underestimated by scholars. So our attention sorry. Okay, so this paper aims to analyze these groups to understand if and where they are conditioning working practices, and if it is possible to confirm or not the existence of a gap between the two words, the two different words. And from evidence, conceptual distance between the two positions is reducing, and the possibility of shift is increasing in recent time. So we found that this topic can be very interesting to deepen. We built our research model, and we can see here very briefly presentation, considering job characteristics and imagining that based on literature, these can have different influence starting from one of the other groups and verifying some outcomes. With regard to job characteristics, as you can see, we consider workload, work pace, work-life balance, relational tasks, task and work changes. And about the outcome, we consider three different groups with regard to job outcomes, to individual outcomes, and to social outcomes. Every hypothesis, as you can see, is characterized by a positive or a negative sign in relationship that individuals score high compared to salaried. What is happening now? I'm not touching nothing.
We see your slide. We see your slide.
Yeah, yeah, okay, but it is changing. So I was in the next and I didn't touch it. But okay. So
sorry to interrupt.
A positive sign.
Since you have a bad connection, if you want, you can say next, and I will change the slide for you. Is it okay? Is it okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was simply saying that a positive means that individuals who are higher compared to salaried ones, and negative sign means self-employed individuals who are compared to salaried employees. So this is the complete model we try to test, and now it is better that Daria continue in describing our work. So we minimize the problem. Daria, are you there?
Okay, you can go with the next slide then. Next. Perfect. So our analysis then was, we were really very curious to understand the main difference among these two groups based on the dimensions that Teresina Torre just showed us in terms of job characteristics and outcomes. We had the chance to take this huge database that is the European Working Conditions Survey. Of course, we took the last available, and through this analysis, we had the chance to compare two big groups: 35,000 salaried employees and 7,800 self-employed workers, through a very simple statistical analysis, that is the sample t-test, meant at comparing job characteristics as well as all the outcomes among these two groups. Okay, I can go ahead. So results, we could test then the hypothesis that Terry had just introduced to you, and we could see that most of them were satisfied, or at least a reverse result. See, for example, work-life balance, which we hypothesized was higher for self-employed workers compared to salaried workers, while the opposite was true. So, but anyway, we could find that the groups differentiate in terms of t-test. So difference arised among the two groups in terms of what we have just said, the different dimensions. So we what was demonstrated through the analysis, so we could indeed identify the, let's say, the profile of self-employed workers and salaried workers. Self-employed workers experience higher levels of workload, and that's coherent with what we know from literature. They, most of the time, the work content is mainly relational with customers and clients, while salaried workers work is a higher work-life balance. The work content is, of course, mainly desk and PC work, and they all, as well, and unexpectedly experience higher changes in work. Again, I lost the presentation, but anyway, I can remember that as for the individual outcomes in terms of attitudes. I remember that self-employed workers had higher levels of work engagement but lower level of job strain. While as for job satisfaction, we didn't find any relevance in terms of difference among the two groups. That's quite an interesting result, because indeed in previous literature, positive psychology, occupational psychology, and so on, we found no difference between the two groups in terms of positive work. Again, other aspects really very relevant are the aspects related to health, well-being, and of salaried workers higher compared to self-employed workers, and even the aspect related to lifelong learning, which is higher for salaried workers compared to self-employed workers. So since I say that the time is running, I go directly to the conclusion, saying that from our analysis, since we expected that those differences were balanced, actually, so were reduced, we rather found still evidence that differences exist between these two groups. But these, anyway, give us the opportunity to analyze these two groups, and in some way to rethink even the relationship between employee and employer in terms of thinking on how to reduce what are the drawbacks experienced by one group, and rather work on the potential benefit of the two groups. So, for example, a specific concern might be on the lower level of lifelong learning experienced by self-employed workers compared to workers, or the reduced health and well-being perception again perceived by self-employed workers compared to salaried workers. So we think that, of course, it's an exploratory analysis. Even the statistical techniques used are very simple, but it gives us some suggestions and some stimuli to further discuss on the relevance of studying these two different groups. Of course, there are lots of limits in this research. First of all, that the decision related to becoming a self-employed workers, is it a free choice, or rather is due to the fallback of the impossibility to find a job? Then other limits related to the data set itself and the need for further investigation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any question for these two speakers?
Can I just a brief comment?
Yes.
You are welcome. With pleasure. If you can hear me without not understand my problems today.
Yes. And I think this is, although as you said, it's quite simple in its statistical ambition. Nonetheless, I think it's very interesting because it makes us wonder, and also law scholars wonder, what are the features of a job that need to be tuned with protection devices. So, for instance, we assume that being employed is usually well, at least in the prevailing narrative, we have that mobile work is better because you can work balance better. You can work and life balance better. There's growing evidence that this is not the fact. So how about protecting health for autonomous workers? So even this quite in a sense not sophisticated evidence, but I think it bears many possible implications also in legal regulation. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for appreciating our effort. So you put in evidence one of the many reflections that can be developed starting from some basic evidence. So nothing of really surprising, but interesting to deepen and to use for political indication.
Okay. If there is any question? So I think that is not necessary to try another lap, as the answers, the questions are so few. So I try to conclude this workshop and to find a synthesis of these 4 papers. Aloisi and Stefano advocate the validity and the superiority of the standard employment relationship over the self-employment one. And this is for many reasons. The labor contract is incomplete. There is a protection of the rights of the worker and so on. This position seems to be supported by the research of Dotto and Torre that shows that there is a great zone, that the distinction between standard and non-standard working relationship is not so deep. And maybe, as the paper on the evolution of artificial intelligence will show, that the new blockchain technology could reshape the labor law contract in a still unknown way suggested by Alfredo Bini. To the present, the digital transformation has produced new key professional jobs in the workplace of either small, medium, or big companies, whose typologies require a different mix of soft skills, functional skills, related skills, computer-related skills, and digital skills. So it seems that the panorama is very dynamic. It's moving toward a terra incognita, and this could be a very good opportunity for us that are making research as a profession. And with these few words, I conclude this workshop. So you have a time for a break before jumping in the workshop number 2. Thanks for your attention and your participation.